This nightclub bar is under new ownership, and during the coronavirus pandemic, it's being completely renovated. But do the new owners know exactly what they've got on their hands? This bar is built inside the cells that was once Britain's worst prison, and it is even named after the most famous inmate, who many people say is still here. This is the Elvet Bridge in Durham. Millions of people have walked across it to get to the shops without realising its significance. A bridge has stood on this site for almost 900 years. At one time, there were even buildings on the bridge itself and even a chapel, and it was this chapel that was replaced by the Elvet prison. The prison was opened in 1635 and inmates were confined to these tiny cells, barely 7 feet in length, which is about 2 meters. Up to 3 inmates could share one cell alone. All these inmates had was a bed of straw to sit on. It is in these cells that some of the worst people from this area were kept, including notorious murderers, rapists and robbers. These cells form part of a tunnel that once led to a courthouse that is now Durham Town Hall. It was there that the sentence would be passed down and they would learn their fate. The method of execution around this time was hanging, which was always done in the summer months, so inmates would have to wait in their cell until it was time. One notorious case was that of Mary Nicholson. She was accused of murder by poison and spent her final night in one of these cells before being marched to the gallows to hang. However, the gallows were not set up correctly and the structure broke under her weight, meaning the half-choked woman had to stand and wait for over an hour while it was repaired so that she could go up a second time to be hanged. There were no toilets or sewers in this prison, and there's no ventilation. You can imagine how bad the smell would be, and this prison was known for being infested with rats and insects. It's believed that 1 in 4 inmates in this prison died of a disease before they even reached a trial. Some men were deported to new colonies, such as Australia, and they would have been led down these very steps to waiting boats on the river, although there are records of some prisoners requesting to be executed because they didn't want to leave for an uncertain part of the world. So who was Jimmy Allen, the most famous prisoner? He was a local celebrity of his day, playing the Northumbrian bagpipes and becoming an official piper for the Duchess of Northumberland. However, his fall from grace was brought on by a life of petty crimes, and he was sentenced to death for stealing a horse in 1803. That sentence was later reduced to a life in prison, and he would serve 7 of those years. A royal pardon was sent to this prison, and that would have meant he would have become a free man. But it arrived too late, as Jimmy was found dead in his cell 3 days earlier. Jimmy's ghost is said to be the most active in this area. Members of staff over the years have reported hearing bagpipe music coming from the cells where Jimmy was once held. So it's time to get the night vision camera out. Let's get into this old nightclub and find out what really haunts Jimmy Allen's. So first things first, and that's, if you remember back in 2018, the first video we did for the channel was in Jedburgh. So many things are going to come back around from that. Obviously, the links to this story with Jedburgh, there is a link there. But in that video I said Jedburgh Jail, that Victorian prison, was the worst prison. The conditions in there were terrible. And I take that back straight away, because just walking through here and seeing the size of these prison cells that these prisoners had, completely take that back. If I was spending the night in either of these, I'd pick Jedburgh any day. And of course Jedburgh, as you heard, being the link where Jimmy Allen the man himself stole the horse in Gateshead, and they picked him up in Jedburgh. They arrested him, and this is where his prison would have been. Now, I'm stood outside one of the cells. We don't know which cell Jimmy's was, but I'm stood outside one of the cells, 7 by 3 foot. So you can imagine that's a little bit longer than the height of a human by 3 foot. And there would have been up to 3 people per cell. And they would have been chained in, and no sewers. There would have been no toilets down here. You can imagine this place absolutely stunk. And of course, 1 in 4 didn't even make it to an execution because they died of diseases. There was rats infesting this place. It really was pretty much the most horrible prison that you can even spend your time in. And I know a lot of people say, well, you had murderers in there, you had child rapists in there, but there was women and children in here. If the father owed a debt, the family, the wife would be locked up in here until he could pay that. So there were people in here who weren't criminals, people in here who weren't bad people at all. And obviously murderers, rapists, there were. So you've got a right mix of people. So you feel sorry for people. Other people you think, well, you are scum of the earth, you deserve nothing better than to be in a place like this. But so as you can see, it's this is the one of the cells that sadly it's all been filled in, and a lot of these go underneath the street here. So like some of the shops, like we've heard the Oxfam shop has access, and you can see there's lights on at the back where you can see where it's been bricked up. This is modern brickwork that's filled it up. You can see the original stone of the cells going around, and then of course this was used as an air raid shelter in the Second World War. So you can see the concrete there that's just reinforced this place to make it bomb proof. I say reinforced, it's very cracked along there, and then at the back you can see where they've tried to brick it all up at the back. And this tunnel originally went all the way through to the town hall here in Durham. So this is obviously where the marketplace would have been, and up until the 1970s you could probably walk from here underneath most of Durham city centre, and of course back down that way, which leads to the entrance of Jimmy Allen. So this would have prison cells all the way through, and according to the legend you're still meant to be able to hear bagpipes being played from the cell of Jimmy Allen. Now we don't know which was his cell. I don't think there's any record in existence that would say which cell he was occupying, other than it could have been any of these. And he was in here for 7 years. Imagine that, 7 years of confinement into something that you wouldn't even put an animal in there, would you? If you put an animal in a zoo enclosure in something that big, it would be cruelty. You would have it shut down. Yet 3 humans could fit on a straw bed in there, and a lot of them were chained up. A lot of them were executed. Some of them only in here for a certain amount of time. Some of them deported. Some of them were sent off to the new colonies of the world, Australia. We heard about that at the start. They were shipped off on the bridge, under the bridge, and sent down the weir and then off to Australia. Some were even known to have requested to be executed because they didn't want the uncertainty of being sent to the other side of the world. These men would never have even known what was on the other side of the world. And of course, hanging was the best way out for some. I think it's sad that this tunnel got forgotten about. Like I say, it's been used for storage for so long. It would be so cool if it gets opened up and the history side of this place gets... people can come in here and see maybe plaques, information on the walls, and find out about the people who were locked up in this place. There was some colourful characters, to say the least. I'm just going to show you another one. This one's still got the original door. That's actually not the original door, it's further down. This is just a wooden door that's been used, and if I just knock on it, I don't know if that could be someone's cellar or basement on the other side, and I think it's one of these down here that's still got the original, this one. So you can look in here and see it's just been used for storage, and there's all sorts. Look at that, rusty cans down here, and that was, I'm just going to try and get as far in as I can so you can get the camera. This is this was home. I've got the giant spider there. This was home for someone who could be given life in prison. And it's, you imagine, look at that brickwork, the original brickwork of that cell. And then of course, this tunnel was obviously a lot wider. It's been reinforced by concrete, and yeah. Let's try by maybe calling out, seeing if there's anybody in here. I'm going to go further up again to the far end, the darkest end of this tunnel, to see if anybody, whether you stayed in here, were you a prisoner here in this prison, Durham prison? Were you a convict? Maybe you were someone who was executed here. Did you even commit your crime? Were you wrongly executed? I'm going to try and get a look up to the back here, and you can see where it's been filled in, and you can't go any further. But I imagine the cells in here went for at least a good half a mile. It's an incredible place. And of course, I don't think this is the original. This was a bit too luxurious for something like that. But if you were a prisoner in here, maybe you died. Did you spend your final nights on earth before being taken away up this tunnel to the court, which was up here? Might be worth just pointing out that many people squeezed through here did spend their final nights. If you were locked up in a cell, you would have been marched out of your cell up here, up there, up to the court, and given your sentence handed down. And if it was death, you probably had a week or two to live. Remember, all executions were carried out in the summer months. So when you look on the register, it's got July, August time, and imagine that. Imagine the fear of being someone who, you'd done a petty crime, you'd done wrong, but you were given such a harsh penalty. Can you imagine if this was just where you lived, in pretty much solitary confinement? I mean, look at it. So you got to think what it's going to be like to wake up on the morning of your execution and be taken out of these cells and taken to the execution site. And then we're going to see it later on. The bodies were brought back into a morgue that's built into the back of the nightclub. We're going to go in there a little bit later on. If there's any spirits in here, can you make a noise? Can you tap? Can you make a bang? Can you play music? We've heard that the legend says that Jimmy Allen's ghost is said to play the pipes, the Northumbrian pipes in here. Did you die in here? Because we know that 1 in 4 people died of disease. Don't even want to imagine what the diseases that would have passed around this place, whether it was cholera, maybe even the plague, talking 1600s, 1700s, so there's all sorts going around. I mean, we're in the middle of a coronavirus pandemic, and this one, you can go right back into there. It's get the camera right through there. You can hear voices from the bridge itself. So many people walk through Durham, walk over this bridge, and don't even know there was a prison built into the bridge. It's fascinating history. It's truly fascinating. I think if you're in the area and you're in Durham, and the next time you walk over this bridge, think about what's inside of it. I know we don't like to debunk things, but we do. But you often wonder where the legends of these ghost stories come from. After this place was a prison that was used for storage. Shovel. Kids used to dare each other to come in here before it was bought and turned into a nightclub in the early 2000s. Is that where the legends come from? Kids daring each other to come and look for Jimmy Allen's ghost. I must admit, if I was a member of staff and I was working and using this as a storage area, I'd not want to come here on my own. Of course, the executions were public things. You know, they didn't have Sky Sports Ultra HD back in those days. It was a form of entertainment. If you are a spirit in here, can you make a tap, make a bang, make this sound? Surprised if someone answered that. Tap. I mean, there is moisture on the floor. I can't see where we're getting drops of rain coming down. No, we're not. Oh, we are. It could just be a drop. It's hard to imagine what it would have been like. Probably the worst prison in England. But that was the law back then. You broke the law and you knew what you were coming. So if you stole a horse back in the day, you knew how serious a crime that was, so you knew what you were coming in for. And that's an air raid shelter as well. Imagine coming down here to escape the Blitz. I know I said this exactly when we were in the Victoria Tunnel in Newcastle and in Cardiff Castle earlier this year. These aren't pleasant places to come when you know that your house may be gone after you've come out. That's why it's reinforced in concrete, to keep people safe in the event of a blitz. As well as looking for any signs of old graffiti on any of these walls. Well, there's some modern graffiti in this tunnel, but just on the original brick where the prisoners, as if you were in here and you had absolutely no hope of getting out, so you're gonna write on something. final chance before I move on and go inside the club. See that morgue where dead bodies of executed prisoners were kept. If there's anybody who wants to make contact, just make a tap, make a bang. Any noise that you can get my attention. Oh, did you hear that? I heard a bang. It could have been something on the bridge above, I don't know. It was like a dull thud. If that is someone, it's appreciated. Which cell was Jimmy's? Was it one of these few that we can walk past now, or was it further up under Durham? Gonna head further down towards the entrance of the nightclub. This one, you can get right in. Look at this as well. You can see the actual original wooden door. So they weren't behind bars, these men were, look into there, you can see where it's been bricked up, but they've left the original wooden door on its frame. And obviously we're not the original ground height because we've had concrete put in, and this was an air raid shelter, so this is not the original floor, so you can see why we're looking at half a door frame basically. But just to give you a little bit of insight into how big these cells were, broken glass there, just to give you some insight. There's another one there. This is just how wide, you can see if we come through here, how wide one of these cells would have been. Because there's the reinforced concrete there that goes all the way through, and then this is the original stone of the bridge. So this would have been the back wall of one of the cells. We would have had this amount of space. So you can imagine I'm in a cell. That's how much space in front of me there would have been. It would have been minute. Right, that's the entrance to Jimmy Allen's nightclub. Let's go inside.
Everywhere you look in Jimmy Allen's nightclub, you can see parts of the original arches from the Elvet Bridge. Those that believe in the stone tape theory believe that stone like this can capture things like emotions and feelings, just like a tape recorder. And that could be an explanation for some paranormal events. Think about it. Think about the amount of people that have been locked up in here. There are records that over 127 people were executed after being kept in these cells. Imagine the fear in prisoners that waited on death row, seeing bodies being brought back down the tunnel after their execution to be kept in a morgue in the back of what is now the nightclub. But think about the history of the old Elvet Bridge as well. It goes right over the roof of this dance floor. Imagine the fear inside Catholic priest John Bost. At a time when it was illegal to practice Catholicism, he knew that when he was getting dragged over this bridge in 1594, he would be hanged for 20 seconds before being released and being cut open while still alive, to have his intestines and his heart ripped out and thrown onto a fire below before being beheaded. Imagine the fear he felt as the horse dragged him across this bridge to the gallows. His head was later put on a spike on the fortress on the bridge overlooking the cathedral, but it was in 1921 the Pope canonised him as a martyr.
As you can see, workmen have literally dropped tools. This is the ground floor bar. I'm just on the stairs looking down. You can see the new bar is going to get put in there that they're building at the minute. And then you can see the original archway. And in fact, if you come here, you can actually see the original archway of the Elvet Bridge. It goes all the way around here. And you can see there where the new sort of roofing has been put over the original arch. Again, they're not taking anything away from the history of this place. And then of course, we've been in the cells. That's where they were kept as prisoners. They were then led up the tunnel and sentenced in the court, and then brought back down the tunnel, put back in their cells. There would be a couple of weeks before an execution would take place. That's just the alarm beep going off there. That's fine. But then they were executed not far from here. They were taken away to the execution site, hanged, but then the bodies were brought back in here. They were brought back to the prison, and then I'm going to show you where the bodies would have been kept. So prisoners were brought back into here. Through this doorway, you can see it's just a storage room of the bar. I'm just going to go in here and have a little look. As you can see, they've got this protective material around because it leaks, and this is original. This is part of the bridge, and they can't actually stop that, so this is always going to leak. You can see it's coming down because it's been raining today in Durham. But this was the morgue. Now you've got an executed prisoner, and you're not going to have a refrigerator back in 1635, so this was a case of there would have been no dignity. They wouldn't have wrapped them up. They probably just left the bodies piled up depending on how many they went through at that time. So this was a morgue, effectively a morgue, and however long they kept them here for, I've got no idea. But this is so cool, and this is an original door as well, an original door, so it's not like they've just put their own. And of course modern day graffiti, glad there's nothing unbroadcastable on there. So you might as well see if we can make contact with anything or anybody in here. If there's anybody linked to this prison in Durham, in Elvet. Can I shut this door? Would that be, yeah, I can. Literally locked in a morgue. Is there anybody, any spirits, anyone linked to the prison that wants to make themselves known? I know it's hard to hear with the drips. I'll try and get the drips in there. There's literally nothing we can do about it. It's a 900-year-old bridge. We can't just go and get a plumber in. But so we're just trying to ignore the drips. But if there's anybody in here who could make contact by maybe making a bang or a tap or some kind of noise, just for the viewers at home, I'm in complete darkness. You're watching this through an IR, infrared light, that gives us night vision. But there's no light in here with me. But everybody who was executed that stayed in this prison was brought in here. Their bodies would have been hanged, probably with broken necks. Probably your murderers, your rapists, your robbers. Their bodies would have been locked in here until it was time to be disposed of. And I must admit, I don't know what would have happened. Would they have been given a... I'm hearing footsteps in this place.
Listen very closely. I thought there was somebody outside the door of the morgue, possibly the owner of the bar, coming back inside to see where I was. However, when I walked back into the club and looked around, I realised there was nobody else inside. The whole bar was locked, and I was the only person with access to it.
There's the door handle. Trying to see in the dark. Which way does it go? Inwards, outwards, inwards. Swear I heard.
Could this be the spirit of somebody we were talking about, whose body had been kept inside the morgue after they were executed? Or could it even be the man, Jimmy Allen himself?
I literally stopped recording there because I thought somebody had walked in this place. We have a constant third light on. Now that indicates there's something around here that could be, there are some electrical appliances that could be interfering with that. But it's constantly on 3. It's constantly on 3. If I take it to here, there's a very strong electromagnetic field. Sorry about that, fumbling in the dark. It's staying on 2 now. It's staying on 2. If there's any spirits in here, can you come and interfere with my EMF meter? We can certainly see you. It goes to 3. I don't know if you can see that. If I tilt it this way, you can see a little bit. We're getting quite a bit of energy going on around here. There's a lot of, there are things like there's a plug here, but that's not causing it. Oh, there we go. That could explain a lot of it. There is some power around here. Oh, the wrong way. Is there any spirits in this club or prison? Is it a prison in your time? I don't know how they see things if they're still around. Do they still see it in their own time? Is this still a prison for you? You locked up in here for whatever crime, whether it was petty or maybe you were a murderer. Again, look at that. I'm getting really, really high. Levels of EMF. It seems everywhere you go, look, you're getting this. I don't know whether it's just the power. There's some power cables down there. I think we'll put this away. I think there is a lot of electromagnetic field around this place from not paranormal. I think obviously, let's see here, workmen have been building with their tools in there. So I'm just going to keep walking around. If there's anybody in here who would like to appear, is anybody in here who can appear to me? Are you Jimmy Allen? Man who was locked up for stealing a horse, of all crimes. This whole prison area was yours. People hear your pipe music. I think it's time to debut some new equipment for this channel. We're going to use an SLS camera. So this is an SLS camera. It's picking up infrared light and it's using a a special camera to try and create a 3D model of the objects that you see in front of it. A lot of gamers might recognize this technology in Kinect for the Xbox. It picks up figures. Many people believe it can pick up paranormal figures as well, so I'm just giving this a little whirl around just to see if we can pick anything. If anyone's in here with me and you can hear me, appear in my camera. I'll be able to see you in stick figure form. I just go and navigate these stairs. Make sure I don't walk into anything as well. Complete darkness around here. Is anybody in here who would like to appear? Can you show me that you're here? Did you go to this prison? Were you a prisoner here?
Jimmy Allen's is a fascinating place, and I loved every minute that I was inside. However, things got stranger after I got home. I received a message from the wife of the owner of the club, who told me that the following night, some of the builders who were in there doing repair work had also encountered some strange footsteps, despite the fact they were the only people inside the club. If you're ever in Durham, you need to come here, even if it's for a quick drink. I'm sure if you ask kindly, the staff might even show you some of the old parts of this prison. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Dead Air channel. There's a lot more videos like this right on there.